What extreme opinion do you hold? That there is a real chance that the United States might fall apart. It's an inevitably 2000 years from now, and I doubt any of the world powers we know today will exist in a recognizable state any more than the Roman Empire does today. The only part that is up for debate is how quickly that might happen, and how it changes. Genghis Khan, for example, when he thought he'd rule the world, I doubt he thought it was his sperm, and not war, that would do it. How astounded would Roman engineers be over the waterways and roads that are still around? Would the biblical Egyptians be able to even imagine the Jesus following, rulership, power, permeating and influencing so much of society? Yep, obviously, we won't see it. I think we'd be blown away by what we see in 200 years. That it's perfectly normal and fine to lack extreme opinions. Most things are grey area, and that's okay. Yep. Also, don't let your opinions define you. That will make it impossible to change your mind, even when you deep down know you are incorrect. Don't believe everything you think. People complain way too much instead of doing things to fix their problems, which results in a constant cycle of misery. If you complain when there is a solution to your problem, I do not feel bad for you. Wow, so extreme. There should be accountability for the lies perpetuated by media. That doesn't seem very extreme to me at all. It seems like it should be the standard. However, I studied journalism in college and know all too well that it isn't. Latinx is not only unnecessary, it's ultimately an insult to the Latin American culture as a whole, since it strips it of a necessary part of their language. It's not even phonetically correct in Spanish or fake. There is no X sound with X. It's either equus or S, and I don't think that's how Latinx is pronounced. Unless someone else can correct me, it seems like a genuine case of whitewashing, lol. It was coined by someone of Latin descent, but I know a bunch of people who prefer Latin, since it's pronounceable and maintains the non-gendered aspect. All drugs should be legalized, so people can get treatment they need instead of being imprisoned. Treating addicts instead of watching over addicted inmates would be a lot better and safer for everyone involved. I don't think they should be legalized, but I do think they should be decriminalized. What would the practical results/benefits be of decriminalizing, but not legalizing? The US should switch to Celsius and literally every other metric unit, so we can finally all be on the same page. Okay, this opinion I'm here for. Most people are awful, me and you included. I feel personally attacked, but I can't say I disagree. Superhero movies are for kids, and it's honestly embarrassing how many infantilized men care about them. Imagine Gata keeping a movie on Feo. I think the sky should be orange. I'd like the sky to be yellow and the sun blue. 1. Birth control should be free and available everywhere, from gas stations to churches, mandated by law. 2. Condoms and vasectomies should be free to any man, no questions asked, and tubal ligations available for women without question. 3. Childless couples and individuals should receive subsidies and tax rebates, or at least carbon credits which they can sell. Why didn't you include women getting their tubes tied in number 2? They deserve the same choice. Absolutely good point. Let me chuck it in. Humans are in plague proportions. Like any ecological system, we will outgrow our environment. R/antinatalism, though I agree with the ideology, but that sub is full of adult babies who complain about being alive and having to be an adult. They are the epitome of I hate my life, and anyone that enjoys their life should be ashamed. Phew, actually. Old people shouldn't be allowed to run our countries. Any person in government that controls minimum wage or anything related should be paid minimum wage too. Why are we paying them $150k plus for working few hours a week? Vote for war. We should be able to vote for war, and those who vote in favor of war should be the first to go. And those that didn't vote for war should stay home. Unless I'm defending I'm not in favor of war. 4 days, 8 a day. Work days should be the new normal thing, and those in positions that are able to finish a full day worth of work in 1H should be allowed to go home. We have minimum age requirements. It's long past time for maximum age requirements. I'm not necessarily for age limits. Some people live to be 95, and they should have some representation in government too. Also, if you argue there should be age limits because they won't have to live with the consequences of what they legislate, then does that mean anyone with a terminal illness should be kicked out of office too? I think term limits are a better solution. Often, once a politician gets a bit entrenched, they are super safe and don't really have to try very hard to keep getting votes. Religion needs to die out as soon as possible. In my opinion, religion is like that cup of tea video. It's okay to drink tea and to ask someone if they would like a cup of tea, but if they say no to the tea, then don't force them to drink it and don't offer it to that person again. It's also bad to use the tea as an excuse for things or to raise someone to drink tea. Don't treat someone differently just because they drink a different brand of tea than you, or if they don't drink it at all. Just my opinion, but it sounds like okay logic. We should have consensual dueling legalized. In a society that places heavy weight on duels, no duel is consensual because you can't deny the duel or you will basically be kicked out of society. It allows the crazies to run the show because they don't care about killing or dying. Birds cause death. Earth has a lot of deaths and has birds. Any other planet don't have bids and has 0 deaths. Coincidence? I think not. Bold of you to assume that birds are evil. People who don't get vaccinated for COVID should pay astronomically higher insurance rates because they are a danger to themselves and other policy holders. Considering this would affect their place of work, it should be extra incentive for them to lose their jobs due to their callous disregard for the well-being of others and willful ignorance. You have to pay more as a smoker. Similar reasons. TikTok is a platform that is feeding into the Reddit and 4chan trolls jokes. I wholeheartedly believe it's just being used to train AI. Millions upon millions of videos with silly dances, mimed facial movements, realistic authentic reactions. It's an AI and deepfake paradise. No one should be allowed to make more than $1 million a year until everyone is clothed, fed, and sheltered. Also, drugs should be legal. I don't disagree with this, but many of the world's billionaires live off of $1 salaries and still live quite lavishly. No matter how you cap salary, people will always find a way to lawyer out of it. Not vaccinating your children with the routine vaccinations, measles, polio, etc. is reckless endangerment and should be criminally prosecuted as such. Mine would be, if you don't believe enough in medical science to get a COVID vaccine, then you don't believe enough in medical science to receive the treatment when you get it. Anti-vaxxers should be lawfully barred from occupying ICU beds. Anti-vaxxers who try to have anything to do with hospitals are hypocrites. Either you believe in medicine or you don't. There should be help and shelters for males in abusive relationships as well. There are male-only shelters, albeit they are fewer and farther between. My husband is a social worker, so he helps with this kind of thing all the time. Everyone should have a full stomach, a roof over their head and free healthcare, as a minimum, and access to clean water. All religions must disappear. Every single conflict can be traced down to a religious matter, or the people causing them have used religion as an excuse. Dictator ass MF. Stupid ass believes there's an imaginary man in the sky ass MF. The way we do packaging and shipping in the world is absolutely insane. A glass bottle could last 1,000 uses or more. A plastic bottle, dozens to hundreds. But instead we make the bottles, fill up the bottles at a plant, ship them to the store full, buy the bottles, then throw away the bottle once it's empty. And if it's recycled, instead of just rinsing it out, they crush/melt it down and completely remake the perfectly good bottle. We do this for so many products. Why can't we just have refilling stations in grocery stores, where we just bring our own container and fill it back up again, charging by the amount of product dispensed? It's so goddamn wasteful. And most packages these days have way too much packaging. It's crazy to have an outer layer of foil package, an inner layer of plastic, film, a paper carton underneath, and each individual cookie shrink wrapped. Kids' toys are even worse. Sometimes they are 90% packaging, and 10% toy. A few laws about how much packaging can be used would go a long way. In some countries, like Mexico and India, I think, soda companies do reuse bottles, but yeah, having dispensing stations would make more ecological sense than the system we have now. The world would be a better place with no borders, under one government. Seconded. Bring back the empire. May the sun never set on the British Empire. Absolutely not an empire. Animals shouldn't be raised and killed for food. True, they should be hunted. If a person can't kill the food they're gonna eat, then they shouldn't eat it. Separation of labor may be the most important development in human history. Who knows where humans would be today without it? The American political left is equally as destructive as the right. Either end of a spectrum is equally extreme the further over it goes. That said, the majority of the American left is centrist, damn near right themselves by most any other standard. Meanwhile, the American right is sliding further and further right until eventually they are just going to fall over. We should stop making fun of people for crushes. It's literally one of the most basic human emotions. Yeah, but who is doing that? Kids, teenagers, some adults. Kids are peens to other kids. Teenagers are peens to everyone at some stage. Adults that don't grow up beyond poking fun at a crush are deserving of only pity. I personally think teaching kids from a young age that crushes are okay and not teasing them when they develop them would go a long way to raising a generation of well-adjusted people who don't treat simple, basic attraction as something taboo and to be picked on. We shouldn't encourage people to be comfortable in their bodies. We should encourage a healthy lifestyle so people can feel comfortable in their bodies. I think the problem is that, as with any general message, people took the idea of body positivity and swung it absurdly far in the direction of total acceptance. Body positivity is great for accepting imperfections and acknowledging that people have different builds, but no one should be encouraging obesity. I think we can all agree that anorexia is damaging and a disorder, so we should be able to view severe overeating in the same manner without people claiming it's mean-spirited. It's not mean to tell someone who's 400 pounds that you're worried about them. That's love. We should cut the human population down to like 2 billion. Female education and empowerment is the most effective method. Within just a 10-year period of the Quiet Revolution, the total fertility rate of Quebec dropped from 3.8 to 1.9 children per woman between 1960 and 1970. With education and the ability to make their own decisions, most people choose to have less than replacement levels of children. Texas has left the chat. Pluto is a planet. You heard about Pluto? That's messed up, right? The US population has been conditioned into complacency, on the whole. Yeah, there's some loud people that want change, and sometimes people protest a little. But nothing is going to actually change. We get breadcrumbs from time to time to keep us quiet, things like gay marriage, marijuana legalization, and $1,200 stimulus checks. But those aren't the things we actually need, other than gay marriage. Okay, but what do we do? Like, how do we actually force change? Our entire system is built so that all the average person can do is vote for who they think will screw them over the least. How should we even start to change things? I get that this is the complacency you're talking about, but I really don't see how there's anything we can actually do. Economic damage is how we force change. That's all that has ever worked. Boycotting and riots. People shouldn't be able to get married infinite times. You can have mulligan or two, but after that you better choose carefully and wisely, because you're not doing it again. Caveats for if you're widowed. Obvs. That's incredibly stupid. But we should talk more with people who have differing political views, all while doing our best to respect them as humans, and expect they respect us as well. The issue here is that many times people with a differing political view are directly threatening. Like, how many times should a gay person have to hear someone say why they don't deserve to get married? Also, you have to speak to them. They're your mother/father is a complete lie. If that person is toxic, you don't have to do crap. All public servants should wear chicken costumes. Why though? Would be funny, to tell the truth. I also stole that joke from Woody Allen. secede Texas from the US, and allow every MAGA frick passage to it so they have their own backwards ass country to themselves. Please no Austin residents. On average, conservatives are dumber than other people. Conservatives are dumber than other people. All drugs and adult sex work should be 100% legal. If the covered denialism has taught me anything, it's that idiots will always clog up our ears. Legalizing dangerous drugs will be a burden to our healthcare system. I'm all for legalizing safe, non-harmful drugs like psilocybin and LSD, but there's no benefit from legal heroin. You legalize it, tax the hell out of it, use the tax dollars to fund recovery and hospital programs. The problem with keeping it illegal is that it allows black market economies to fill the demand, and the rest of society still has to foot the bill. People are spending too much time in school. Most jobs nowadays do not require the level of education stipulated. Why the hell do you need a 3-year degree in business to be an assistant or secretary? I will never know. And before anyone says I'm just being salty, I have a master's degree on full scholarship. Oh, and higher education is a joke. Like now they're so specialized, you spend years studying a needle's a hole. Like now there is a bay in social media GTFO. Marketing and communications can't cut it. It has to be specifically social media. What happens if TikTok goes the way of MySpace and a new platform pops up after the kid graduates with a specialization in social media? Go back for another bay? Phew. That felt good to get off my chest. We also spend too much time at work. That the USA was founded as an agnostic society and there is no place for religion in our politics or government. I know Reddit tends to lean left, so I'll go ahead and say it. As a conservative, I 100% agree. Religion has zero place in matters of the state. No one should care about people's sexuality or anything. Unless you want to date them, it changes frick all for you. Some form of dictatorship is the future of all humans. I see no world where a system as slow and painful as democracy allows us to adapt fast enough to extinction level events like climate change and the eventual nuclear wars. I see what you are saying, but I feel that in part the reason we see democracy as being slow and inefficient is because we don't have it. Our politicians are owned by people who repeatedly oppose change to our detriment because there's money in it. Not to mention that most of the time politics draws people who desire power, not for the betterment of humanity, but for their own vanity. In our system, the people do not rule, they are ruled. Humanity should be ended, doesn't mean I will act upon it, but without humanity life on Earth will continue for much longer. With it, it will end much sooner. A giant meteor caused more damage to the planet than humans ever will and life survived. Thriving life is also subjective. We should pick good/fitting refugees. We should deny refugees that don't fit in culture-wise or for other reasons. If we did that, we could probably support more refugees in total and have a better result for those refugees. So deny those less fortunate or more different from a haven from inhabitable living conditions, war zones, NKOREA. No. He's saying don't let in the extremely devout Muslim whose stated sentiments against your country, or for the US specifically, don't let in South/Central Americans with criminal ties or intentions. Tax the rich more to fund unconditional UB for all below a certain income level so that we don't depend on jobs for survival anymore. Give the homeless homes for free until they can get back on their feet. There's enough money to do this. It's just not going to the people who need it. Imagine a world in which people aren't completely dependent on their paycheck, so employers would actually have to create an entice work environment based on respect in order to attract and keep employees. That all people are deserving of mental health services, no matter their race, creed, background, religion, sexuality or sexual preferences, employment history or status, criminal history, no matter what. If you want or need it, you should be able to access it. And this might not seem like an extreme opinion, but if you look around, it really is. Insurance companies should be non-profit and wages capped. A lot of things are worth more than human life. People are a parasite to this earth. We have destroyed this planet because we are selfish. Also, people who want to have children without knowing they can properly care for them is selfish. One of the best choices we can make is to stop reproducing. Again emo. With our inaction to address climate change, it is unethical to continue having children at this point. I prefer mangoes to oranges. That's extreme. I take mangoes in a heartbeat. Hookup culture is most UN feminist thing ever. Care to explain? I'm well past any thoughts of hookups and married, kids etc. But if a woman wants to have numerous one-night stands, or a FWB, or whatever as her choice, isn't that feminism being realized? I'd argue it'd be unfeminist to say no, you can't have casual sex, because that is wrong. Most minorities don't give a crap about racism. Everyone is a little racist. It's controversial and I might get downvoted, but the medical personnel and teachers that are being let go for not trusting science and refusing vaccines deserve to lose their jobs. If you spent years to learn how to teach science or learn about it in school then refute it, you deserve the consequences of your choices, and I have no sympathy for you. A banana is not a good measure of scale. Get out. Birds aren't real. Have you ever actually seen a bird in real life? That's what I thought. We should start to eradicate the common cold as well. The common cold is in fact hundreds of different viruses. Racism will never die by implementing morals, laws, regulations, etc. Which, if you think about it, only works when people are caught. It requires the person/people to change. Even when people claim the system is racist, well, who created the system? People. Who makes the racist decisions and who has the racist thoughts? People. Forced integration work though. Laws often lead public opinion, like gay marriage in the USA. We've seen a drastic shift since Abergefula. Modern Jesus would be assassinated by those who claim to love him in his name without a shred of irony or awareness. In countries where everyone who wants a vaccine has gotten one, no more virus spread prevention mandates. Let Mother Nature rid us of stupid people. I love this idea in theory. The problem is that the unvaccinated are spreading it more and creating stronger variants which continue to affect everyone. Believe me, I would love every unvaccinated person in countries where the vax is available to be taken out of the gene pool and the voting pool. I'm definitely leaning towards mandatory and free birth control until a certain age or proof of means/readiness. So eugenics. Your face and or body should not be on any picture on the internet before you are of majority. Also, it should be illegal for influencers to talk about investment options of any kind. This is straight up market manipulation. When you have 1 million followers and tell them to buy a stock, good chances that the price of the stock will go up. Guess who bought a lot of that stock before his video? That's right. I think reproduction should be limited and or permitted. The same process as going through adoption, making sure you're qualified etc. There are too many people on the planet, consumption is through the roof, and a crap ton of people are not qualified to be parents. If you love someone, you don't cheat on them. Thanos was right. Young children should not be exposed to all the gender talk. Talking to kids in kindergarten and elementary school about that topic is just wrong. There is a time for that kind of education, usually when kids get into puberty. Josh Hartnett is not, and never has been, attractive. I get irrationally angry when he is on the screen, especially when he is a love interest. I was in high school when Pearl Harbor came out, and I thought it was offensive to all women that he would ever be able to touch Kate Beckinsale. She is a goddess. He is gross. That 35% of civilization should be destroyed. People shouldn't die, but with the knowledge of destruction we could build more environmentally friendly cities. It may even start a revolution. Edit. Since people don't seem to get the gist, people would not die. We'd remove them from the location by force or not. The cities would be. The US should adopt a basic income model and universal healthcare including mental health. Tax the rich, but not in a pop culture way like in a redistribute your wealth you prig way. Cops do not need a union and should be paying for their own insurance policies. It's the government's obligation to provide its citizens with basic necessities of living, food, housing, healthcare, etc. Company upper management should be imprisoned when their company breaks the law. No fines, prison time only. Fines pass the punishment to the consumers. And if the fines are too much, they just bankrupt the company and move on to a new one. Companies aren't bad, people are. People are making these choices and these cover-ups. Speaking as a European, Oreos are not that good. They are barely even mediocre. Tons of better cookies to choose from in our cookie aisles.